So today we're here to talk about disinfection, right? We all have heard about COVID-19, right? COVID-19 is, I gotta be honest, been really challenging for me and my business, you and your business, and every business in the United States today. So what we're gonna talk about is appropriate disinfection and how we get the results we're looking for, right? The results we are looking for are disinfected surfaces. So let's just go back and talk about, from a custodial department, what your job is, right? A custodian's job is not to make sure that a building looks clean. A custodian's job is to provide a safe environment for the building occupants. We are responsible for the health and safety of the building occupants in whichever building we work in, okay? That is a whole lot different than shining floors. So I think it's really important that when you guys are going about doing your jobs every day, you are thinking about being responsible for the health and safety of the building occupants, right? At the end of the day, people think they look at a floor and it's shiny and they're like, oh, this building's clean. That's a perception, right? But that's not the reality. A building is not safe for the students or faculty or yourselves unless we're using the appropriate disinfection protocols. So in Erie schools today, we use, it used to just be one disinfectant, but today we're using a couple different ones, okay? So the disinfectants that you guys are using today are the number ES64, that comes through the dilution control unit. That dilutes at 2 ounces per gallon all the time. We don't have to dilute that ourselves. The other disinfectant that you guys have in your arsenal today is the Clorox hydrogen peroxide pro-oxide product. That is a hydrogen peroxide disinfectant. That is ready to use. And then sometimes we have some spray disinfectants, right, Frankie? But for the most part, those are your 2 disinfectants. So when we talk about disinfecting surfaces, you know, we've talked about, you hear about terminal cleaning. That's what we call it in the healthcare business. We call it terminal cleaning. For us, we are talking about general disinfecting. Nothing has changed from 2 months ago to today on how you disinfect a surface, except for maybe the product you're using, because we wanted to get, you know, a little bit quicker dwell time. But nothing changes. When you are disinfecting a surface, the first thing you have to always think about is that you cannot disinfect a dirty surface. If something is visibly soiled, it has to be pre-cleaned before you disinfect. So what is a dirty surface, right? Dust is a dirty surface. Pencil marks are a dirty surface. Boogers on a desk are a dirty surface, right? So, for example, if someone, and I know you elementary teacher or custodians probably really hate this, but if someone vomits in the classroom, you don't just put disinfectant on the vomit, right? You pick it up and then you disinfect the surface. The same thing holds true when you are disinfecting surfaces in a classroom or in a cafeteria or in this room here. If there is dust and dirt on a surface, it needs to be pre-cleaned. Now, every one of you is looking at me and saying, well, Shannon, I don't even have time to disinfect every surface in my areas right now, let alone clean them twice, right? Yeah. So what does pre-cleaning mean? Pre-cleaning means that you can, I have to put these papers down. Pre-cleaning means that you could take a cloth and use one side to wipe before you apply your disinfectant and then wipe with the other side of a cloth, right? If something is super dirty, so let's say that I'm cleaning in a cafeteria area and the tables are heavily soiled with food, you would take your general purpose cleaner, which is the number 72, right? You would spray the table with that and then wipe. Now, when we're talking about COVID-19, right, we have classrooms that are closed, buildings that are empty. Maybe that cleaning process changes a little bit in that we go through, because we have ample amounts of time now, right? we have lots of time to do maybe a little bit of extra work. So you would go through your classrooms and wipe every desk with the number 72, and then go back and spray disinfectants. Once you spray a disinfectant, you guys, show of hands, everybody know what dwell time is? Yeah, we should, because I've talked to you about it myself, so everybody raise your hand right now. Dwell time is the amount of time a disinfectant needs to be on a surface to kill what's there, right? So when we talk about dwell time on your disinfectants, the number 64 has a dwell time of 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, it is EPA registered, and it is on the EPA's emerging pathogen list as a disinfectant that is appropriate against the COVID-19 virus. Okay? So the EPA has put out a list that says, these are the disinfectants that meet the criteria to kill COVID-19, because nothing's actually been tested against COVID-19 because it's new, but these are the disinfectants that are appropriate for that, and the ES64 that you guys use today is on that list, okay? So 10-minute dwell time for that product. So what does that mean to you? If we're in a situation where everything's closed down and we're doing this terminal clean on all your areas, right? From a best practices standpoint, the first thing you should do is go in and clean everything with your number 72 general purpose cleaner. By everything, what am I talking about? I'm talking about touch surfaces. So you guys probably can think of 6,722,000 touch surfaces in all your rooms, right? Because everybody touches everything. But the touch surfaces mostly are desks, including the teacher's desk. So the teacher's desk is probably one of the dirtiest places in your classrooms today, because very infrequently do you get the opportunity for them to have their desks empty of papers and products, or papers and books and pens and pencils. And we all know that if you touch something on a teacher's desk, they know exactly that you touched it, right? They have their stapler at a 45-degree angle at, you know, the 150th latitude, and they know exactly where everything is, which is fine. But we don't get an opportunity on a regular basis to disinfect their desks. Moving forward, we would love to be able to say to all teachers, every Friday, clear your desks off because we're disinfecting them. Right? That is not a procedure today, but right now, I'm assuming we have the ability to touch every teacher's desk. So that would include desks, including the teacher's desks, pencil sharpeners, any shared computer areas, which are very difficult and very challenging, because Lord knows we don't want to ruin the guy back there running the camera will probably kill us if we ruin all the computers in the district, but those keyboards, mouses, any touch screens, those all need to be disinfected. Shared toys. So a lot of times, K through probably 3, maybe, will have some shared items that kids play with. A lot of our school districts, as a result of COVID-19, have taken those products out of the classrooms. I gotta be honest, I don't know that we'll ever see them coming back, because I think this is something that has maybe given us a little bit of awakening of how quickly something can go from 0 to 6 million, right? So any shared items, pencil sharpeners, I might have already said that, water fountains, handrails, lockers, those are all items that can be frequently touched and need to be disinfected on a regular basis. In our situation today, I would love to see everybody clean all of those items first, and then when you're gonna do your disinfectant step, all you really have to do, guys, is spray the disinfectant on that surface so that it stays wet for the appropriate time, right? The appropriate time being 10 minutes for the ES64. We have plenty of time to do that right now because we're not in occupied spaces, right? We have plenty of time to do it all the time, but you just get the surface wet and then walk away and let it dry, okay? With your hydrogen peroxide product that you currently have, the dwell time for that product is 1 minute. So obviously when we were in school and we had students here, we wanted to make sure that we had a disinfectant that was fast acting and right now. For the most part, and I don't ever want to say that this is an economical issue, but that stuff costs $4.50 a quart and your ES64 costs 9 cents a quart. So there is a big difference in economy, which is why, for the most part, Erie School District is doing exactly what every school district in the United States is doing, and that is using a quaternary ammonium chloride disinfectant that has a 10-minute dwell time. That is no different than what anybody else is doing right now. So, clean the surface, spray it, and then you're done. You don't have to wipe that off. Over time, quats, that's what we're using for the 64, or the hydrogen peroxide. I know you guys have been using the hydrogen peroxide product, right? And you see a white film. Anybody get maybe little crusty white stuff on your fingers? That's what hydrogen peroxide does. It will leave a little bit of a white film. Quats, or the number 64, can make a surface sticky. However, if you are using the 72 and pre-cleaning your surfaces, we're taking off that sticky residue and then putting on another layer of quat. Does that make sense to you guys? Really? I have one guy nodding at me. Keep going, really fast. Yeah. Okay. I was not meant to be a stand-up comedian either, apparently. I'm trying here, guys. When you're cleaning a room, right, you clean from top to bottom, dry to wet. Top to bottom, dry to wet. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, this isn't, this is like stuff your mom taught you when you were cleaning at your house on Saturdays. So that still applies for us in a commercial cleaning environment, okay? The other thing when you're talking about cleaning a room, you want to make sure you're not missing any areas, right? So oftentimes it's important to set up a grid for yourself. Like when I walk in to clean a room, I always work right to left in a circle around the room and then hit the center. Remember, we're looking for touch surfaces. So anything that anybody has or could potentially touch at some point needs to be disinfected, and not just for COVID-19. That's our daily cleaning procedure in the buildings. I know that we have a lot of square footage, and I know we have a lot fewer people to do it. So what I think Paul and Neil and everybody wants to manage is the expectation, which is the most important thing to us is the health and safety of the building occupants. So if that means disinfecting the desks is not going to be a number one priority, always. Okay? I think that the other thing we need to be mindful of is shared spaces, auditoriums, cafeterias. For the high schools, it's even more problematic because we have people changing classes, and in between, we're not going to be able to go in there and disinfect desks, right? So that's where hand hygiene comes in so importantly for not only our students and our teachers, but for you guys. You need to make sure that you're wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment, which is at a bare minimum, gloves. Bare minimum. We do not have confirmed COVID-19 at Erie School Districts today, nor are we probably going to, since we're shut down and we have not had a case yet, so there's nobody to bring a case in unless, God forbid, it's one of you guys, right? So there is no confirmed COVID-19. There is some additional personal protective equipment if COVID-19 is established, and that is a gown, which today we have some of. If we had a confirmed case, we don't have that yet. Minimally, you guys need to be wearing gloves today and every day when you're cleaning. If you're using a disinfectant, you are assuming that there could be contamination on that surface. If you are making that assumption, then you should want to protect yourself by wearing gloves. The worst thing we can do is take something home to yourselves, or also take, God forbid, COVID-19, I'm just gonna say that because that's what we're thinking about, and move it from classroom A to classroom B to classroom C. So that's where we kind of get into these infection control principles that we've been using in hospitals for 100 years, but now we're gonna start really trying to focus our K through 12 education partners on doing, which is not taking a rag that you wipe a desk with, right? And let's say I take that rag and Johnny had the flu. Let's not say COVID-19, let's say the flu, because the flu is relevant and bad. So let's say Johnny has the flu, we take this rag, we wipe his desk, and then I put it in my disinfectant. And then I take that same rag and I wipe Amy's desk. And then I put it in my bucket. And then I wipe Timmy's desk. So all of a sudden now we could have some potential of cross-contamination in the disinfectant that's in the bucket. I prefer, and I think we would like to defer to the spray and wipe method right now, which is you clean your desks with number 72, and I'm just talking about desks. It could be anything. You clean your desks with the number 72, and you try to use, look, we don't have enough wipes for everybody to use something different on every desk, right? But if you're using your number 72 to clean the desks, and then you're just coming back through and spraying the disinfectant on the desks, then we don't really have any method for any sort of cross-contamination, right? Hospitals, if they do use the dip method, they use one rag per area that they're cleaning. So to equate this to a hospital situation, you would use one rag in classroom A, one in classroom B, one in classroom C. You know how many rags you guys would have to have? So the spray and wipe method will help to control any sort of cross-contamination that we could potentially have by not re-dipping a rag into a bucket of open cleaning solution. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Today, are you guys using a dip method or are you using a spray method? Just show of hands. Who's spraying? Oh, I like it. I like it. Who's dipping? Nobody. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. No double dipping. It's kind of like the same thing with ketchup, right? If you don't have your own ketchup, then you don't want to share ketchup if you're going to keep on putting it back in. As far as the products that you currently have, as far as the amount of money that the district is willing to invest in these products, I'll tell you, there's not many school districts around, and I sell to all of them, that have invested as much in the health and safety of these buildings today. Frankie and Paul and Neil have been super proactive at getting exactly what we need at exactly the right time, as long as I can get it, and really done a great job of making sure you guys have all the appropriate tools in your belt right now. I don't know that there is anything more we could be doing, but remember, nothing changes in your cleaning methods from COVID-19 to the flu to any disinfection process that you're doing today. They're all the same. Anybody have any, are we gonna have a question and answer period? Do you want me to keep on talking? I could go for like another. Yes, if we do, yeah, and I actually have, hold on. We have put together, based on the CDC's recommendation, a cleaning protocol after expected exposure to COVID-19. So this is based on the CDC. This is their recommendation. We are just plugging in the names and numbers of the products that you're using. But the first thing it's recommended to do is close off the area, right? So if we have expected COVID-19 in your buildings, the first thing we would do is obviously shut the building down, right? And we would like you to wait, and again, this is something that would come directly from administration, but we'd like to wait as long as possible before we started our disinfection process. And the reason why is because the longer something sits, potentially it'll die on its own, correct? We've all heard that COVID-19 or the flu or AIDS or whatever lives on a surface for a very specific amount of time. We don't have enough information today on COVID-19 to say, oh, it only lives on a surface for exactly 36 hours. We do know that it can live on a surface up to 9 days. Now, are we going to be able to close a room down for 9 days? No. But we would like to close the room down and get some ventilation in that room for as long as we possibly can. I'm assuming at some point the district would say, if you have COVID-19, the building's going to be closed anyway, folks. So if we get a case, the building's closing. And they might say, okay, let's give it 24 to 48 hours to air out before we send you guys in. Not only does it give nature a time to do its job, which is, these things die on their own anyway, but it gives you guys a level of protection as well. The district, of course, is very concerned about your health and safety as well. So they do not want to put you in a situation where you could be hurt or get sick yourselves. So, if possible, we want to wait a minimum of 24 hours with some ventilation in the room before we start cleaning. Now, you guys all are looking at me and saying, these kids don't just stay in one room, they're in the whole building, which is why the whole building's going to be closed. Okay? So if we had a confirmed case, my assumption is we'd lock down the building, we'd open up whatever windows we can, which is another problem, right? We don't really have a lot of windows that open anymore, but we'd open up whatever windows we can, and we would probably give ourselves a 24 to 48 hour kind of stop, don't do anything, nobody in the building, let's get this thing aired out. The second thing you would have to do is start cleaning and disinfecting all touch surfaces, right? So you would focus on the high touch surfaces. I'm gonna read some because I did a good job of picking my brain to find these out. Desks, door handles, pencil sharpeners, toys, tables in the cafeteria and libraries, handrails, water faucets, shared computer keyboards and equipment. All surfaces in the restrooms, such as handles on partitions, water spigots, toilet flush valves. Any shared items, such as toys, tablets, should also be disinfected. Pens and pencils that are laying around. I don't know what will happen with things like crayons in the event that we have a suspected COVID-19. I'm sure we'll get some direction on that, right? But that would be the some of the touch surfaces, and that list is not limited to just that list. If surfaces are visibly soiled, they need to be pre-cleaned using the number 72 EnviroSolutions hydrogen peroxide cleaner. All surfaces should be sprayed and wiped with a disinfectant, allowing for sufficient dwell time. We talked about this. EnviroSolutions is how long? The number 64? Thank you. And the Clorox hydrogen peroxide cleaner is how long? 1 minute. Thank you very much. See, they're listening. I love that. Both of these cleaners are on the EPA list for emerging pathogens. So they are appropriate for COVID-19. They're also appropriate for the flu. They're also appropriate for about 35 to 50 other items, okay? Soft surfaces are an issue. Carpet is a problem. So we are trying to get our heads around what we'll do. The first thing we'll probably do is clean carpets with our standard products. The reason why carpets are an issue is because there is not an EPA registered disinfectant on the market for cleaning soft surfaces. We have some disinfectants. The hydrogen peroxide product you use is listed as a sanitizer for carpets, and the difference between a sanitizer and a disinfectant is the amount of germs it kills on a surface. So, a sanitizer kills 99.9% of all bugs on a surface, whereas a disinfectant, an EPA registered disinfectant, has to kill 99.9999. Okay? The problem is it's hard to culture on a soft surface to see exactly what is being killed. Stuff absorbs into carpets. It doesn't absorb into a hard surface. So most disinfectants on the market that you guys see, whether you buy them from me or Walmart or Amazon, a disinfectant is typically EPA registered on pre-cleaned, hard, non-porous surfaces, right? Well, carpet's none of those things. So we'll probably vacuum, throw out vacuum bags, right? We're not going to be, you'll be going through a lot of vacuum bags in the event that this comes down. And we'll probably just do a general cleaning. One of the things we have talked about is using a hot water extraction. So typically anything from above 165 degrees kills anything anyway, right? So there are carpet cleaning companies who have machines that heat water up to 235 degrees. So we'd probably move to some hot water extraction if we had a confirmed COVID-19 case. But for now, if your carpets are looking pretty nasty, we could just clean them since we have some time. I don't know what the direction is on that. Don't quote me on any of it, but. The personal protective equipment, in the event that we have COVID-19, in the event that we have a confirmed case, the following equipment should be worn: gloves, gowns or protective coverall, and additional items may be required if there's a risk of splashing. So goggles, maybe some face masks. I don't anticipate in what you guys are doing that there would be much of an opportunity for splashing, right? If in the event that we had something, we do have some stash of these items. That's something you would work with Paul on if you felt you needed them for your particular job function. I'm sure Paul would do everything he could to get you those items. You should wear gloves and outer garments for all tasks in the cleaning process, including emptying of trash. Okay? So you want to make sure that you have, if we're in a situation that we have a confirmed case, that you have those items on. But listen, you guys should have gloves on when you're emptying the garbage anyway. You guys should have gloves on the entire time you're cleaning. And you should change, plug your ears, guys. You should change your gloves frequently. Because we do not want to bring something from room 1 to room 2 to room 3 because we didn't change our gloves. So your gloves should be changed frequently. If we have a contaminated area, your gloves have to be changed immediately after you clean that area. Now again, we're working in a school, so little Shannon might have gone to every single area of the building before I even knew we were confirmed, right? Hands should be cleaned immediately. You guys, hand hygiene is the most important thing we can do to protect ourselves and the building occupants. We should be encouraging kids to wash their hands a minimum of 5 times a day while they're in school. And this isn't really just during the event of a pandemic like COVID-19. Influenza B killed at least 150 kids under the age of 18 so far this year. And that number's probably gone up significantly. We're just not tracking it closely now because we're really busy tracking what's going on with COVID-19, that the seasonal flu is kind of like, it's just the flu. 30,000 people in the United States will die from the flu this year. Minimum, 30,000 people. 600,000 people across the world will die from seasonal flu this year. 600,000. So this stuff doesn't change. This is the same protocol you should have starting in October every year and moving through May, because that's flu season. And our students and our teachers and yourselves are very susceptible to flu. It also passes very easily. So these are the same procedures we should be using during flu season. I think it's really in the forefront of our minds this year because COVID's new and nobody knows what to expect. But we talked about flu season in September. Hey guys, let's have some of this hydrogen peroxide product. We sat in Frankie's office and talked about it in case we get a lot of kids off with flu. Monitoring the attendance is very important. Someone in the building should be coming to you and saying, hey, Mrs. Jones has 10 kids off in her class during flu season. What do we do for that? Oh, I better get my hydrogen peroxide cleaner out and disinfect her room differently, right? So none of these things are different. I think what this has taught us is how to think about it in a different way, right? Because we don't just empty trash and make sure there's soap and toilet paper. That's not the custodial department's job. The custodial department's job is to maintain the health and safety of the building occupants, students, staff, and yourselves. So these are things that we should always be thinking about. But 5 times a day for kids. I mean, and I know that's a burden on teachers and staff and everybody, but at minimum, you should be washing your hands. At minimum, you guys should be washing your hands when you arrive at work, before you go on break and have a snack or do whatever you're going to do, before you eat lunch, after you eat lunch, and before you go home. Those are the minimum times you should be washing with soap and water, not sanitizing. Washing your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. And the kids should be doing the same thing. So we're starting to put up some posters about hand hygiene. We're starting to, I think moving forward next year, you'll see we're putting those posters up in October, trying to encourage kids to wash their hands, reminding teachers that they're part of that. Look, teachers don't want the flu either, and they certainly don't want to bring the flu home to their kids. So they will, I think, very readily be part of the solution on this moving forward. If you have any breaches in your personal protective equipment, like a tear on your gloves or something like that, you should immediately report that exposure to Paul, because we need to know, right? We need to know. Chances are you'll be fine, but it's still something that should be reported. And again, it just says you should be making sure, if you're washing your hands and getting ready to go to lunch, you should be real sure that if you're taking off your gloves, getting ready to go to lunch, you should be real sure you're washing your hands. Real sure. So that's kind of the protocol if we had a confirmed case, but it's kind of the protocol anyway. It's kind of what we anticipate you're doing anyway. If there are any things that you find missing, I know Paul and Frankie are really open to ideas. Neil is also really open to ideas of things you think that would help make your job a bunch easier than it is today.